Have you ever wondered how some people can manipulate others so effortlessly? Let's take a journey into the shadowy corners of the human mind where dark psychology and manipulation intertwine. Dark psychology, a field that fascinates as much as it unnerves, delves into the aspects of human nature we often prefer to ignore. It's the exploration of the sinister side of our psyche, the side that exploits, deceives, and manipulates. But why do we need to know about it, you ask? Well, understanding the darker aspects of our nature can help us protect ourselves and paradoxically foster healthier relationships. At the heart of dark psychology lies manipulation, a crafty tool used to control and influence others. It's a key component, the fulcrum around which dark psychology pivots. Manipulation is subtle, often going unnoticed until it's too late. It's a puppeteer's string, invisible yet powerful, pulling at our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Manipulation is not inherently evil. We see it in everyday scenarios. A child's sweet-talking parents for an extra piece of candy, a salesperson persuading a customer to buy a product, or a politician swaying public opinion. However, when used with malicious intent, it becomes a tool of dark psychology. The manipulator, a master of human psychology, understands our wants, fears, and insecurities. They know how to tap into these emotions, using them as levers to steer us in desired directions. They play on our trust, our empathy, our desire to please, twisting these virtues into vulnerabilities. So, how can we spot manipulation? It's not easy, but there are signs. A gut feeling that something's off, a sense of being emotionally drained, a feeling of constant self-doubt. Recognizing these signs is the first line of defense against manipulation. Understanding manipulation is the first step to understanding dark psychology. To navigate the labyrinth of human interactions safely, we must light a torch in the darkness, illuminating the hidden corners where manipulation lurks. And as we delve deeper into this enigma, we'll uncover more about the mysterious world of dark psychology, helping us protect ourselves and promote healthier relationships. Consider the infamous case of Charles Manson, a master manipulator. Charles Manson, a name that still sends chills down our spines, was not just a criminal, but a puppeteer of the human mind. His understanding of the human psyche, coupled with his ability to exploit human vulnerabilities, allowed him to control and manipulate his followers, a group known as the Manson family. Manson's manipulation tactics were rooted in his deep understanding of human behavior. He was known to be charismatic, a quality that drew people towards him. He leveraged this charisma to exploit the vulnerabilities of his followers. By understanding their insecurities, fears, and desires, he managed to weave a web of control around them. He used various psychological tactics to maintain this control. One such tactic was the use of fear and intimidation. Manson was known to instill a deep-seated fear within his followers, a fear that was often irrational but powerful nonetheless. This fear was a potent tool that allowed Manson to maintain his control over the group. Another tactic Manson employed was the use of emotional manipulation. He would often play on his followers' emotions, using them to his advantage. By creating an emotional dependency, he ensured his followers were always under his control. Manson's manipulation did not stop there. He also used psychological conditioning to mold his followers into compliant subjects. He would reward obedience and punish disobedience, conditioning his followers to comply with his every command. Manson's manipulation was not a result of some supernatural ability, rather it was a testament to his understanding of human behavior and vulnerability. He knew how to exploit these vulnerabilities to gain control and manipulate his followers. What makes Manson's case particularly chilling is that his manipulation tactics were not unique to him. They are techniques that are used by manipulators around the world, highlighting the dark side of human psychology. Manson's manipulation is a clear example of dark psychology in action. Not all manipulation is as overt as Manson's. Sometimes it's subtle, like in the case of Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. The story of Elizabeth Holmes, the former CEO of Theranos, provides a remarkable case study in the use of manipulation and deception. Holmes dropped out of Stanford at the age of 19 to start Theranos, a company that promised to revolutionize healthcare with a device that could run comprehensive tests from just a few drops of blood. The idea was compelling, and Holmes, with her deep voice and striking blue eyes, was a persuasive figure. She used a variety of tactics to sell her vision. One was to surround herself with influential people who could lend credibility to her and her company. She persuaded former secretaries of state, retired military generals, and seasoned business executives to join her board. Another tactic was to maintain an aura of mystery around the company. Theranos operated under a cloak of secrecy, with Holmes often citing trade secrets as the reason for not disclosing more about the technology. This heightened the intrigue and made it harder for people to question the validity of her claims. However, the most powerful tool at her disposal was her ability to tell a compelling story. Holmes painted a picture of a world where no one would have to say goodbye too soon to a loved one because of a disease that could have been caught earlier. She used this emotional narrative to persuade investors to pour hundreds of millions into her company and convince consumers that Theranos was the future of healthcare. But as we now know, it was all a deception. The technology did not work as promised, and the company was a house of cards that eventually collapsed under the weight of its own lies. Holmes's story shows how manipulation can be used to deceive even the most discerning individuals. So, as we delve deeper into the enigma of dark psychology, let us remember that manipulation is not always as overt as one might think. It can be subtle, insidious, and incredibly effective. So what makes manipulation possible? This is a question that has intrigued psychologists for decades. It all boils down to three key psychological concepts: cognitive biases, susceptibility to influence, and the power of persuasion. Let's delve into these a bit further. Firstly, cognitive biases. These are systematic errors in thinking that affect the decisions and judgments that people make. Some of these biases can make people more susceptible to manipulation. For example, the confirmation bias, where people tend to seek out and believe information that confirms their existing beliefs. Manipulators can exploit this bias by presenting information that fits into their target's preconceived notions, making their deceit more believable. Secondly, there's susceptibility to influence. This is often linked to personality traits such as agreeableness and conscientiousness. People who score high on these traits are often more susceptible to manipulation because they value harmony and are more likely to comply with requests. Manipulators often target these individuals because they're more likely to go along with their plans without resistance. Lastly, we have the power of persuasion. This is perhaps the most potent tool in a manipulator's arsenal. Persuasion involves guiding people towards the adoption of an idea, attitude, or action by rational or symbolic means. Skilled manipulators are usually adept at using persuasive techniques such as appealing to emotions, using authoritative language, and leveraging social proof to convince others to comply. Manipulation, at its core, is about control. It's about using these psychological concepts to influence others to act in ways that serve the manipulator's interests, often at the expense of their own. It's a dark and underhanded practice, but understanding how it works can help us guard against it. The power of manipulation lies in exploiting our psychological vulnerabilities. By recognizing these vulnerabilities within ourselves, we can be better equipped to resist manipulation and maintain our autonomy. Now that you've seen how dark psychology works in real-life scenarios, what can you take away from this? Let's take a moment to reflect on the key points we've discussed in this journey through the shadows of the human psyche. Firstly, we've delved into the definition of dark psychology. It's the science of understanding the darker side of human nature, the manipulation, the deception, the coercion. It's a field that exposes the tools and tactics used by those who seek to control others for their own gain. We then moved on to exploring two chilling case studies, those of Manson and Holmes. Both of these individuals harnessed the power of manipulation to their advantage. Their stories serve as stark reminders of how dark psychology can be used to exploit and control. Manson, with his charismatic charm, manipulated his followers into committing heinous acts. Holmes, on the other hand, used his intelligence and cunning to deceive and defraud. Next, we ventured into the psychological concepts that make manipulation possible. Here we discussed how manipulators exploit our cognitive biases, our emotions, and our social conditioning to influence our behavior. They prey on our fears, our desires, and our need to belong, twisting these inherent human traits to their advantage. But remember, knowledge is power. By understanding these tactics and techniques, we can better arm ourselves against them. We can learn to see through the deception, to question the motives behind the flattery and the persuasion. We can learn to recognize when we're being manipulated and take steps to resist. In conclusion, dark psychology is a complex and fascinating field. It shines a light on the darker aspects of human nature, highlighting the ways in which some individuals may seek to control and exploit others. But with understanding comes the ability to resist, to protect ourselves and others from manipulation. By understanding dark psychology, we can be better equipped to recognize and resist manipulation in our lives.